guys, welcome back to the second episode of Power of Play, where this month, which is May, everybody should know it's May because we just got out of April 420, just kidding. We are all focusing on mental health awareness this month. I know, look, we can never be, we're never professional on this, but mental
It's
health
okay.
is really, really important. And we're definitely here to talk with Eve. And we had her on another show, but we're going to kind of put the microscope on her and the Take This org. So I am going to, without delay, I'm going to say, hey, there's Matt,
Hey.
who is my co-host. And here's the wonderful Eve, who is back, and we're going to throw it to you. Eve, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Take This organization?
Yeah. So, I'm Eve. I'm the executive director of Take This, and I have a long career in nonprofit world. Like that was always what I was going to do. And and then I married a guy named David who runs a game studio. So there was always this like part of my world that was video games, and that was not what I expected in my life, but it happened, and it became a wonderful part of my life. And then about 5 years ago, I left a really awful job, and it was like so toxic, and I needed some time to recover. So I started consulting, like doing a little bit of side project stuff while I got my confidence and my sense of purpose back. And one of the places I consulted that I got connected to through my husband was Take This, which was really at that point in need of some support. And I started doing like some fundraising support, and quickly I was like, I think you need more than that. And they were like, yes, please. and here I am. I've been executive director for 4 years, and I love it. It's really cool work, and I am able to do the kind of systems change work that I have always wanted to do. And I never expected it would be in video games, but it's a cool place to be, and it's a really compelling thing that I get to work on every day.
That's incredible. And I'm
Yeah.
always so excited to I know I was talking to a couple of people who are kind of outside the game industry, but they
Hmm.
had no idea that these kind of organizations existed, which is why I think it's really important that we have these conversations with
Yeah.
you guys to show that you are out there and you're there to support gamers as well as the industry. Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
thought you were going
yeah.
to say something.
No, I was gonna totally jump in because I was like, in 2012, when the founders who were both journalists were talking, were thinking about this stuff, they one of their colleagues in game journalism committed suicide, and they were like, we need
Oh
to
my
start talking
God.
about this. And so Take This was the first time that there was ever a community talking about mental health in games. And like the game industry, it was big then and it's massive now, and the number of people who work in the industry and the number of people who play games and love this community, and now the number of folks who stream and are content creators around it, like it's a really large industry, and there needs to be conversation that is culturally informed, that feels relevant, that reaches people where they are. And that's what we do, and that's what we've been doing since we were incorporated in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did Take This actually start? Because, like I said, I recently found out that your organization was basically the
Yeah.
first one to really focus on this and make it important.
Yeah, so that was 2012.
Okay.
And it was a Tumblr blog at the beginning. And it was just
Ah,
like people talking,
rest in peace,
and
Tumblr.
yeah, right. um, and now and so, and then the first thing that they kind of took on as a program that still exists, we still run it, is the AFK Room program, which is this in-person, like quiet, supportive space that's staffed by clinical and non-clinical volunteers at game conventions. We started at PAX. And we're still at all the PAX events, and we do MomoCon as well, and we consult on others. And that model of that space is was really, it's a way for us to provide relief for the intensity of conventions, but also just like start the conversation about mental health. And um, one of the things is that there's so much stigma around mental health and mental illness and the conversation around this stuff. And it's gotten better, but it hasn't changed completely. And so all these spaces are designed to be like low entry points where you can start that conversation and recognize that, one, it's totally valid to need support, and it's totally valid to get help. And this is how to do it. This is where to start. And so I think that program, while it's no longer the central part of our work, is really still really important and kind of foundational to um, all conversations about mental health in this community.
I love everything about the AFK room because I feel like whenever you go to a con or you go to an event or like anything like that, it can get very easy to become overwhelmed or even like get stuck in
Mhm.
that mindset of being
Totally.
like, I'm here, there's so much going on. Look at all these games, look at all these people. I want to go, 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 go. And before you realize exactly you bottom out. So like I love this concept of it, and especially now as the return to live events is slowly starting to roll along. Is there anything
Mhm.
that you guys are going to be doing differently with the AFK rooms after the last couple years, or like any other different kind of support given everything that people have been through, maybe like uneasiness even being at these live events and stuff? Yeah, any changes or any
Mm.
kind of different focal points kind of as you return to them?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is that it took us a second to be ready to do that, right? Because we have a lot of volunteers who run that space and staff that space,
Hmm.
and we really wanted to make sure that we weren't putting them in danger. And so that was a hard process, and we're doing that now, and we continue to take more and more safety precautions and provide
Hmm.
support to our volunteers. And then it was a question of, are people going to feel safe in that space in close quarters, sitting? And it turns out, yeah, that people really need that, right? The
Hmm.
intensity is kind of dialed up even more post pandemic because people are not used to crowds. They're not used to being in groups. They're not used, it's a little
Right.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, so our desire was really to meet people where they were, which was recognizing that need is even greater. It doesn't change the
Hmm.
way we work. We've always been very, very intentional about our design, our ethical approach. The boundaries that we set around not doing therapy because that's not appropriate in that setting, but
Hmm.
around really validating people and helping them understand what they need and articulate what they need in that moment, um, and making sure that the space is as sanitized and clean and and really like welcoming as possible.
Hmm.
So we just we've made a lot of small changes, like we don't have shared crayons anymore because or colored pencils because those we can't sanitize as
Right.
easily, or coloring books, we just have coloring sheets. So it's like stuff like
Hmm.
that we have done, but mostly, that's it is what it is. We did put together a Discord based AFK online during the height of the pandemic, which we still have kind of built out, and we, it's kind of a backup for us, especially if there's situations where folks can't access. Where we're not able to fully staff an in-person event place, but
Hmm.
that has worked really effectively too. So it's like we're just trying to build as many systems around what's going on as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like I've just coming back from not a gaming event, but an event. There was a lot of people who were very excited to be back out there, but also there was a lot of anxiety about like these people
Mm,
are wearing masks, but these people are not wearing masks. At the same
Mhm.
time, it's like it's this kind of buildup over the last few years. So it's great to hear that that you're actively aware of that and kind of working towards that,
mhm.
because even just being back in that space can be anxiety inducing after not being in it for
Absolutely.
so long.
Yeah, and actually we all we're very lucky that PAX all the PAXs are masks required still. We'll
Hmm.
see if that persists, but that's been, there's a couple of kind of standards of safety that we really find important for all of our volunteers that we think are also important for attendees. Yeah.
Hmm.
One of the questions I wanted to ask is like I noticed that you brought up volunteers quite often.
Mm.
How if someone was interested in being a volunteer or and wanted to help out at one of these events that they were attending, how would they go about doing that? Who would they contact and what would they need?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So we encourage people to join our Discord, and you can find that on our website, takethis.org. We have a community resources page, and our Discord's there, and all of our other community spaces. And that's where we recruit volunteers. That's where we communicate with volunteers, and um, that space. And we have online, we have moderators, we have online folks who support some of our work. We've recruited a number of people to do occasional paid work for us through our Discord as needed. Um, but that community, one, it's a fantastic, really warm and sweet community that we're dedicated to growing slowly and organically. So, it's a really lovely space. And two, that's where we really, that's our ground zero for volunteer recruiting and calls for for opportunities. Yeah.
Well, guys, we'll definitely post that at the bottom if you want to join their Discord. I know I'm going to join it because I didn't even realize there was a Discord, which is wild because everybody has a Discord now. So
Yeah.
I need to just realize like that is the way of the future. Everybody has a Discord now.
They do.
But yeah, and I think that's really awesome because it sounds like anybody could really come in and kind of learn what they need to learn and apply their knowledge. And it sounds like a lot of your moderators and you yourself and other people are there to help your volunteers be the best that they could possibly be in those situations. So
Yeah.
I think that's really incredible. Another thing that I wanted to ask you was we did have Dr. B on not too long ago. He was with our mental health series and he's absolutely incredible. You have so many amazing people who are active on social media. And I kind of want to put them down at the bottom as well at the end of the episode so our listeners can follow them. Not only you, but Dr. B. Are there other people that
Oh my
work
gosh,
with the
yes.
Take This org that you think just name a couple? I'm going to give you like 4 people to name because I'm sure there's tons of people that like
yeah, there are tons of people. So I'll stick with some of our core staff. So there's Dr. B, there's Dr. Rachel Cowart, who's our research director, and she posts all kinds of fantastic stuff on games research and like the state of what we know and don't know. She does a really good job kind of explaining scientific research and the details around that. Dr. Kelly Dunlap is our associate director of clinical of community programs. So she runs our Discord, she runs our streaming ambassador program, and she's a clinical psychologist. She also has a master's degree in game design. She's been an adjunct professor,
nice.
and like her whole she has a really fascinating skill set and background, and she's awesome. And then we've been working with Cassie Walker. They're a social worker, and they are building a series of panels by and for marginalized communities, talking about
I
mental
love
health
that.
in games in the community. So each one will feature a clinician who's from that community talking to folks in games
Oh my
or in the
god,
game
that's so
community about
incredible.
because the truth is that like we're an all white central staff, and we and the cultural and historical um, violence done through mental health care to marginalized groups is really
Absolutely.
awful, and it changes completely the way people engage in the therapeutic experience. So we're really excited about that. So that's Cassie, and I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, that's
There are
good.
lots of
That's
people.
great. I really love that you ended with Cassie. Like me being an African American woman,
Mhm.
like the things that I have gone through, or like joining a game and having someone use like a racial slur, like that all really affects you. And I know a lot of
Yeah,
people are like, it's just words, just kind of like let it roll off. And I was like, no, that's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so
actually,
much like, go ahead.
yeah. No, to validate your point entirely, I'm going to interrupt you to validate your point. I'm sorry,
No,
but I'm
it's
just
fine.
excited. Um, that's me. Rachel, Dr. Coert's research is looking right now, specifically in this case, at extremist behavior in games. But what one of the things that she's seeing, she's talking about games as cultural assets, basically as things that shape and shift and kind of engage in culture, and one of the things we're seeing over and over again is that language that's normalized in game spaces, like harassing language,
Mm-hmm.
hateful language, etc., becomes part of people's lexicon, even if they don't realize that it is, and it normalizes hate speech
Yes.
across a lot of different. And so it may not be that people are actually bad, but they think that this is okay behavior, especially if they're young, and it's like there for the taking.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Hmm.
it's wild like
Yeah.
how many young
Hmm.
gamers say the most explicit things because in that setting, in that environment,
Hmm.
everybody's saying it,
Yep.
Yeah.
regardless if it's bad or not. And they, even if they know it's a negative way to come across, like
Right.
everybody's doing it. So,
Hmm.
they just join in and kids are so impressionable
I know.
and that's
Yes.
what's
I know. I
scary.
have an
So
11-year-old, so
yeah, they're so impressionable. Like you jump into like one of those what's one of those games that like the kids play these days? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. But I
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, what's
Yeah.
that? Fortnite, games like that. Oh my god, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it because I'm just like, you sound like you're 10 and you're talking to me like you're a grown ass man. Like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but I
I
love.
mean, my
Oh, go
11-year-old
ahead.
does not play online games with people she does
Yeah,
not know.
because
Don't do
it's just too, there's too much just too much negativity there, I think.
Mhm.
And I would like, and I can't say that, well, I'm going to say this, I would like it if there were like more moderators in games like this, if we were able to kind of have an age gap where they could still enjoy the game but be with kids their age. I think it's really weird for like a 10-year-old to be playing a game with a 35-year-old, and the 35-year-old is just speaking his mind as what adults would usually do regardless, right?
Yeah.
So then you have that kind of like,
Mm,
it's blurry and it's messy, and I don't really know how to go about fixing that because I think all games should be enjoyed by like all different ages. But then there's like
yeah,
so many compartments where it's just like there's a crossover, and it gets a little scary sometimes.
it does. So one of the things that, gosh, I've been diving deep because of Dr. Coates' research and because of a lot of the other things that we're concerned about, because this space is really problematic from a mental health perspective and these issues.
Mhm.
I've been diving into the world of trust and safety, which is relatively new to me. And yeah, I mean, there's people who are trying to think about game design in a positive way. Like, how do you do it differently? There's people who are trying on the trust and safety side because it's really complicated to moderate spaces. Think about
Right.
player matching that's more effective. Think about age
Mm-hmm.
verification. Think about cross-platform behavior. Thinking about
Mhm.
um, like using AI at scale, but also really about how do we how do we not create the problem in the first place with better design.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's a really complicated field, but there's some people talking about it finally in very exciting and wonderful
Oh, that's
ways.
great.
Yeah,
That's
And
yeah.
awesome because it is a conversation that needs to be normalized. It is a conversation that we need to be having moving forward.
mhm.
Um,
And
so I'm glad that you brought that up. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
no, that's okay. Like I was actually just like as you were
Mhm.
talking, Eve, it's just that's one of the things that I really love and admire about Take This is just the way that you not only focus on the, the kind of community at large, but it's also
Mhm.
on the industry and the ways that you
Yeah.
can kind of get into different game development companies and kind of help rework systems from the ground up. Because as we know, like I mean, now it's almost like a news story when there's a game development studio that doesn't have horrible crunch, that doesn't treat their communities terribly,
Mm-hmm.
that is built up around the well-being of their employees, not just the people at large in the community. So as I was poking around the website earlier, I do notice that like you have like different workshops available and different like game
Mm-hmm.
consultations. So can you tell us a little bit about like the different workshops that Take This offers, along with like the different ways that you consult with the game dev companies themselves too?
Yeah, so we do a lot of work inside the industry. Our workshops we've been doing for about 5 years, and those are all designed, a lot of them are like kind of 101 mental health literacy. So a lot of companies will
Hmm.
come to us and say, well, like our employees are overwhelmed, they don't, they need a lot of support. This increased a lot during the pandemic, by the way, no surprise.
Hmm.
But they're not using their mental health benefits, they're not like going to see therapists, they're not, right? And so we kind of help to increase people's literacy and decrease that stigma and fear around what it means to go get access to therapy and to support, and what are the ways that people can find support and develop resilience basically without going to therapy if that's hard to find. So
Hmm.
that's kind of and then we talk about what are the things that are happening, cultural things that are happening in your company that maybe contribute to mental health challenges. So we talk about burnout and the structural issues around burnout. We talk about leadership skills, crisis listening for managers and for community managers and moderators. So we do a lot of that kind of foundational work.
Hmm.
We also like look at game design and game content and content warnings and that kind of stuff. And we do reads and consultations and assessments. And then recently, for a couple of years now, uh, Anita Sarkeesian from Feminist Frequency and I have been in conversation about how do we address the systemic issues around gender-based harm, which is finally kind of having its Me Too moment in games, which is long overdue.
Hmm.
And there were a couple of, and Anita's a fantastic and creative thinker, and her first idea was, let's create a games and online harassment hotline, and that's a feminist frequency program that's really fantastic and good. And then we decided together to build the Culture Shift Project, which is going in at a kind of comprehensive whole studio level and doing like all staff training and work around gender-based harm and harassment, and building all the skills that people at every level of the organization need to avoid bystander behavior, to do proper management and leadership around these issues, to understand accountability, and then to build systems that are better around uh, reporting and dealing with incidences of harm. And we're just starting that work. We're working in our first studio now, and that's really exciting and compelling work. And so,
Congratulations.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
thank you.
That's
Thank
Really,
you.
really,
that's
that's
really incredible.
amazing.
It does.
And I love
This
that,
feels like finally like we're stepping on the right levers of power. Yeah. Go on.
especially because it sounds like a very holistic approach. Like I love that you're addressing every level of the, the kind of industry and the company, because again, you can do whatever you want, but if the managers and above and the HR aren't listening properly, then you know what I mean? Like you
Then
get
it
stuck
doesn't
in kind of
trickle
this closed
down.
loop.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I love the approach that it sounds like a very holistic approach to it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very intentional. It's like you can't do systems change. This is when I said at the beginning that I'm finally doing the work I want to do, right?
Hmm.
Like you can't, and the reason I'm doing this in a mental health organization is because these are people who experience trauma, right? And in fact, in a bad system, almost everyone involved in harm experiences trauma or upset. And it can cause burnout, and it can cause all these other things. And so
Hmm.
it's like, how do we help individuals feel more empowered and understand their place in the system better? How do we help leaders set the tone and build the systems? How do we help managers have the tools to deal with conflict in the moment? Right? There's all these pieces, and it's complicated and it's scary. And
Hmm.
most people don't want to be bad. They just don't have the tools to be good. Right?
Right.
So
That
it's
is
like,
Right.
wonderfully
No,
said,
that's,
though.
yeah, I
But
like
yeah,
the way
yeah,
you said
really.
that, because I
yeah.
I think that's true for a lot of people. Or you don't
Hmm.
even realize you're being bad because you've had bad things done to you, and it becomes this cycle where you just treat people how you've been treated,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's really great that you touched on that. And we are almost coming to the end of this, but before we go, I want to just let people know that it is okay to not be okay. I know we live in a society where you look at TV, you look at social media, and people are posting like these perfect lives and everything. And we've heard about this, and people have said it a million times, but like there's so much more beyond the pictures. There's so much more beyond what you see on TV, and it is okay to not be okay. And I think that's kind of a slogan that we need to like push forward, because people just don't. I know for myself, and growing up the way I grew up, like we just don't talk about our problems. Like
Mm-mm.
nothing is so bad where we need to get professional help. Like we're just having a bad day or a bad month or a bad week. But listen, if you feel that you can't handle anything, definitely reach out to someone. And if you're in the games industry, and you feel that like your workplace is toxic and you don't know what to do, you don't have to do it alone. That's why we have organizations like Take This and a few
Hmm.
others. But Take This is doing incredible work. And I know that, oh my God, I'm just so proud of you guys. Like, I know
Thank
that
you.
sounds silly, me saying that, but I'm so proud of you. I love the fact that you are, because one of the things I noticed is a lot of the people that we did have on for our mental health series, which is not a bad thing, but a lot of them were white people. We
Mm.
didn't actually have on a lot. There wasn't a lot of variety. And I was recently looking for a therapist, and I was like, I really want a female Black therapist, because I feel like she could probably relate to me on situations and feelings that others can't. And then this is not saying anything bad about like other therapists or anything like that, but there is a need for there to be like a foundation, a connection that you feel like you can talk to this person, and that is also helping to create that safe space. So it's incredible that you guys are working on that, and
Thank
you're
you.
building panels, and I absolutely support this 100% because I want to see more of it,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I hope our listeners do too. So Eve, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to come on and talk with
No
us.
problem.
If you could just drop your socials that you're comfortable with sharing for our listeners if they want to go follow you and support you in any way possible. I would love that.
Sure. So I'm at Eve Crevichet, and my last name is phonetic. It's long. It's got weird letters in it, but it's phonetic. CREVOSHAY. So I'm at Eve Crevichet on Twitter. Take this org, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And those are all great places. We have a lot of resources there. You can go to takethis.org/resources for all of our mental health resources, including warm lines and crisis lines from around the world. You can also always, the Games and Online Harassment Hotline is the place to go, 23368. You can text support to 23368 for that support. So that's the way to get our resources. That's the way to find us and to find me.
Awesome.
So thank you.
And I will have Matt, because he's a whiz at typing. I'll have Matt give compliments where you can give them. I'll have Matt put the Discord information down below, and also some of the amazing people that Eve has mentioned earlier in the show, so you guys can go support them. It's so important for you to support these kinds of organizations because we really do need them. And you know what? I think that's it. So again, Eve, thank you so much. Matt, thanks for always being a badass co-host. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Peace out.